Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the crystal windows. The Zephyrian Empire controlled this part of space for over 3,000 years. His people built beautiful cities that floated in space, their buildings made of living crystal that sang in the solar winds. Everything was peaceful and ordered, just as it had been for generations. The Admiral was tall and thin, like all Zephyrians. His skin had a blue-green color that changed with his mood. Right now it showed calm confidence. He wore the silver uniform of the Imperial fleet, decorated with symbols of his many victories against pirates and rebels. But those were small fights. Nothing serious had threatened the Empire in centuries. "Admiral," called his communications officer, "we are getting strange readings from the edge of the Kepler system." Kethvar turned his large, dark eyes toward the officer. "What kind of readings?" "Something big just came out of hyperspace. The energy signature is unlike anything in our databases." The Admiral moved to the sensor station. The display showed a massive object at the system's edge. It was definitely a ship, but its design made no sense. Most ships in the galaxy were smooth and curved, built for beauty as much as function. This thing looked like someone had welded metal plates together without caring how ugly it looked. "Run a scan," Kethvar ordered. "Get me details." The scan results made him frown. The ship was huge, almost twice the size of his flagship. Its hull was made of some dark metal that absorbed most of their sensor beams. Weapons covered every surface. This was not a merchant ship or explorer. This was built for war. "Any response to our greeting signals?" he asked. "No, sir. It just sits there. No communications, no identification codes, nothing." Kethvar felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He had heard old stories, myths really, about something like this. Ancient tales that most people laughed at. Stories about creatures from beyond the galaxy who brought only death and destruction. "Send a message to the Imperial Archives," he said quietly. "Tell them we need access to the Ancient Codex immediately." His officers looked surprised. The Ancient Codex was a collection of very old writings that most scholars considered fairy tales. It contained warnings and prophecies from the early days of the Empire, when their ancestors first left their homeworld to explore space. "Sir?" his first officer asked. "The Ancient Codex? But those are just old stories." "Maybe," Kethvar said, still watching the dark ship on his screen, "but I want to be sure." An hour later, the response came from the archives. High Archivist Zelnoth herself sent the message. Her image appeared on the main screen, her usually calm features showing worry. "Admiral Kethvar," she said, "I have read your report about the unknown ship. If it matches the description in the Codex, then we may face something terrible. The ancient writings speak of beings called humans from a world named Earth. Our ancestors met them long ago in the early days of our expansion." Kethvar leaned forward. "What did these writings say about them?" "They called them the Devourers of Worlds, the Destroyers. Our people were so frightened that they fled to this galaxy to escape them. The Codex warns that these humans love war more than life itself. They turn battle into art and death into poetry." The Admiral felt his skin shift to pale yellow, the color of fear. That cannot be real. No species could be that violent and still survive. "Perhaps not," Zelnoth said. "But the Codex also says they were the only species our ancestors ever met that frightened them enough to run. And Admiral, there is one more thing. The ancient writers described their ships exactly as you have reported. Dark metal hulls covered in weapons, built for destruction rather than beauty." The connection ended, leaving Kethvar staring at the strange ship. As he watched, it began to move. Not the smooth glide of Zephyrian ships, but with purpose and power that seemed almost alive. "Admiral," his sensor officer called out, "the alien ship is changing course. It is heading toward our patrol fleet near the fourth planet. Signal Commander Vextar to withdraw his ships immediately," Kethvar ordered. But it was too late. The dark ship accelerated with impossible speed. Kethvar watched in horror as it closed the distance to the patrol fleet in minutes rather than hours. The first sign of trouble came when Commander Vextar's panicked voice filled the bridge. "Admiral! This thing is huge. It does not respond to any of our signals. Should we warn it away from our territory? Do not engage." Kethvar shouted. "Fall back immediately." But Commander Vextar was young and proud. He had never faced a real threat before. "Sir, it is just one ship against our entire patrol fleet. We can handle this." Vextar, "No. That is an order." The young commander had already cut the connection. On the long-range sensors, Kethvar watched 6 Zephyrian patrol ships move to surround the alien vessel. They were beautiful ships, their crystal hulls glowing with stored energy, their weapons charged but not yet firing. The alien ship stopped moving. For a moment, everything was still. Then Commander Vextar's voice came again, but now it carried confusion and fear. Admiral, our scans show this ship is armed with weapons we do not understand. The hull is incredibly thick. I do not think our energy beams can penetrate it. Then do not try, Kethvar yelled.
Come back now.
We are Zephyrians, Vextar replied. We do not run from one ship. Kethvar watched helplessly as the patrol fleet opened fire. Beautiful streams of blue energy lanced out from their weapons, striking the dark hull of the alien ship. The beams, which could slice through asteroids, simply vanished against that strange metal without leaving a mark. For several seconds, nothing happened. The alien ship just floated there, absorbing the attack. Kethvar began to hope that maybe it was not hostile after all. Then the alien ship fired back. What came from its weapons was not energy beams or plasma bolts. Solid metal projectiles shot out faster than anything Kethvar had ever seen. They hit the patrol ships with such force that the beautiful crystal hulls simply exploded into glittering dust. In less than 20 seconds, 6 Zephyrian warships were destroyed. 6 crews of brave officers, including young Commander Vextar, were dead. And the alien ship had barely seemed to notice the fight. Kethvar stared at the empty space where his patrol fleet had been. His skin had turned pure white, the color of absolute terror. Around him, his bridge crew made soft, keening sounds of grief and fear. Admiral, his communications officer whispered, what do we do now? Kethvar looked at the alien ship, which had returned to its slow, steady course toward the inner system, toward the colonies, toward millions of innocent Zephyrians who had never known war. Send a message to the Imperial capital, he said, his voice hollow. Tell them the ancient terror has returned. Tell them the humans have found us at last. As his ship turned to flee, Kethvar realized that everything his people had built, everything they had achieved in 3,000 years of peace, might be about to end. The nightmares of their ancestors had come true. The Devourers had returned. Captain Elena Rodriguez opened her eyes slowly as the cryogenic pod finished its wake-up cycle. Her body felt stiff and cold, the way it always did after long sleep. She had been frozen for 40 years while her ship traveled through space using Earth's first faster-than-light drive. The UES Retribution was humanity's most advanced warship, built during the worst period of Earth's history, when humans had almost destroyed themselves in global wars. Every system on the ship was designed for one purpose: to fight and win against any enemy. Elena sat up carefully and looked around the small medical bay. Her crew was waking up in other pods nearby, 2,500 of Earth's best soldiers, scientists, and engineers, all volunteers for this dangerous mission to explore beyond their galaxy. Status report, she called out as soon as her throat worked properly. Lieutenant Commander Jackson, her second in command, was already checking the ship's systems. Captain, we have a problem. The quantum tunnel drive worked, but not the way it was supposed to. We are not in our target system. Elena stood up, her legs shaky but getting stronger. Where are we? Unknown star system, unknown galaxy. The computer cannot match any of these stars with our charts. We traveled much farther than planned. Elena walked to the bridge, still wearing her wake-up medical gown. Through the main windows, she could see unfamiliar stars and a yellow sun in the distance. Several planets orbited the star, and her sensors showed that some of them had cities and technology. Are we picking up any signals? She asked. Yes, Captain. Multiple sources. There is definitely intelligent life here, and they have advanced technology, but we cannot understand their language yet. Elena nodded. Wake up the translation team. If there are people here, we need to talk to them. For the next 6 hours, Elena's crew worked to decode the alien signals they were receiving. The artificial intelligence in their computer was very advanced, designed to learn new languages quickly. Slowly, patterns began to emerge from the alien communications. Captain, called Dr. Sarah Chen, the head of the translation team, I think we are starting to understand some basic concepts. These aliens call themselves Zephyrians. They seem to have a large empire in this area of space. Good work. Try to send them a peaceful greeting. Let them know we are explorers from Earth and we mean no harm. But before Dr. Chen could send any message, alarms began ringing throughout the ship. Captain, shouted Lieutenant Williams from the sensor station. 6 alien ships are approaching fast. They are powering weapons. Elena's training kicked in immediately. She had spent her whole career preparing for situations like this. Battle stations. Raise shields. Power up defensive systems. The bridge became busy with activity as her crew prepared for possible combat. Elena hoped it would not be necessary, but she had learned long ago that hope was not enough to keep people alive. "Captain," Dr. Chen called out, "I am getting partial translations of their communications. They are calling us something that translates to devourers or destroyers. They seem very frightened." Elena frowned. "That makes no sense. They have never seen us before. Why would they be afraid?" "I do not know, Captain, but they are definitely scared. Some of the messages mention something called the ancient codex and warnings from their ancestors." Before Elena could respond, her communications officer spoke up. "Captain, the alien ships are trying to contact us. Put them through." The main screen showed the bridge of one of the alien ships. The creatures were tall and thin with blue-green skin. Their large dark eyes showed fear and confusion. One of them, wearing what looked like a military uniform, spoke in their musical language. The computer translated his words. "Unknown vessel, you are in Zephyrian space. Identify yourself immediately. Are you the ones our ancestors called the Devourers?" Elena stepped forward. "This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Earthship Retribution. We are peaceful explorers who got lost during our first faster-than-light journey. We mean you no harm." The alien commander's expression changed to something Elena recognized as shock. "Earth," he whispered. "The ancient writing spoke of Earth. You are the humans." "Yes, we are humans. But we are not your enemies. We just want to find our way home." The alien commander looked terrified. He turned to speak with his crew, and Elena could hear parts of their conversation through the translation system. Words like nightmare, ancient terror, and flee while we can. "Captain," the alien commander said, turning back to the screen, "I am Commander Vextar of the Imperial Patrol Fleet. You must leave this system immediately." Elena felt confused and a little angry. "Commander, we have done nothing wrong. We are lost and need help." "No," Vextar said, his fear turning to desperate anger. "The old stories tell us what your kind does. You destroy everything you touch. You turn peaceful worlds into battlefields for your own pleasure." "That is not true," Elena replied firmly. "Humans have changed. We are not the same species your ancestors might have met." But Commander Vexitar was not listening anymore. His fear had taken control. "You will leave now or we will make you leave." The alien ships began to spread out, surrounding the Retribution. Elena could see their weapons charging up, energy building in strange crystal arrays along their hulls. "Captain," Lieutenant Williams reported, "they are targeting our engines and weapon systems. I think they want to disable us, not destroy us." Elena made a quick decision. These aliens were afraid of something from their past, something about humans that had scared their ancestors badly enough to write warnings about it. But Elena could not let them attack her ship and her crew, no matter how frightened they were. "Signal all hands to brace for impact," she ordered. "Charge weapons but do not fire unless they shoot first." The alien ships opened fire together. Beams of blue energy struck the Retribution's shields, causing the whole ship to shake. But the shields held easily. Earth's military technology was built to handle much worse attacks. "Damage report," Elena called out. "No damage, Captain. Their energy weapons cannot penetrate our shields." Elena looked at the alien ships on her screen. They were beautiful vessels, clearly built by a peaceful people who valued art and beauty. But they were not warships like the Retribution. They were patrol boats designed to deal with pirates and minor threats. "Commander Vextar," she said over the communication link, "stop this attack. Your weapons cannot hurt us and I do not want to hurt you." But the alien commander had lost all reason to fear. "Fire everything," he screamed to his crew. "We cannot let them reach our colonies." The alien ships fired again, this time with full power. The energy beams were much stronger, but they still could not break through the Retribution's shields. Elena realized she had no choice. These aliens were not going to stop, and soon they might call for reinforcements. Her first duty was to protect her crew. "Target their engines only," she ordered. "Minimum power. Try to disable them without killing anyone." The Retribution's railguns fired. Tungsten rods accelerated to incredible speed shot out from the ship's weapons. But even at minimum power, the kinetic energy was massive. The first alien ship simply exploded when the tungsten rod hit it. The second ship broke in half. Within moments, all 6 beautiful alien vessels were nothing but expanding clouds of metal and crystal debris. Elena stared at the destruction in horror. She had not meant to kill them all. She had tried to use minimum force, but the difference between human military technology and Zephyrian technology was too great. "Captain," Dr. Chen said quietly, "I am receiving emergency transmissions from the alien colonies. They are calling for help. They say the ancient terror has returned." Elena looked at the stars around her. Somewhere out there were billions of aliens who had just learned that their worst nightmare had come true. The humans had found them. And Elena was beginning to understand why their ancestors had been so afraid. High Archivist Zelnoth walked through the deep halls of the Imperial Archive, her footsteps echoing in the ancient stone corridors. She had spent her whole life studying the old writings, but she had never thought she would need to open the most forbidden section of the archive. The call from Admiral Kethvar had changed everything. A human ship had appeared in the Kepler system and destroyed an entire patrol fleet in minutes. The old stories were not myths after all. They were warnings. Zelnoth reached the sealed door of the ancient vault. The thick crystal barrier had not been opened in over 1,000 years. Only the High Archivist had the codes to enter, and those codes were passed down through generations with strict orders to use them only in the most terrible emergency. The door opened with a soft hiss, revealing a small room filled with crystal data cores that glowed with soft light. These cores contained the earliest records of the Zephyrian people, from the time when they first left their homeworld to explore the galaxy. Zelnoth found the core she needed and placed it in the reading device. Immediately, holographic images filled the room showing scenes from 3,000 years ago. She watched as her ancestors built their first spaceships and traveled to nearby star systems, full of hope and curiosity about what they might find. The early Zephyrians had been explorers and scientists, not warriors. They believed that all intelligent life in the universe would be peaceful and friendly, just like them. They were wrong. The first contact with humans had happened in a system far from Zephyrian space. A small exploration ship had detected strange energy signatures and went to investigate. What they found was a human vessel, sleek and powerful but not obviously hostile. The Zephyrian captain had sent greeting signals, offering trade and friendship. The humans had responded with what seemed like curiosity and interest. First contact appeared to be going well. But as Zelnoth watched the ancient records, she saw the moment when everything changed. The human ship had been damaged in some kind of accident, probably a reactor malfunction. The Zephyrian captain immediately offered to help, sending repair teams and medical supplies. What happened next had haunted the Zephyrian people for thousands of years. The human crew had been grateful for the help, but as they recovered, the Zephyrians began to understand what kind of beings they had rescued. The humans carried weapons everywhere they went, even on their own ship. They organized themselves in strict military ranks even though they claimed to be explorers. And most disturbing of all, they seemed to enjoy talking about battles and wars they had fought. The Zephyrian captain had been fascinated and horrified by the human stories. These beings had spent their entire history fighting each other. Not just small conflicts, but massive wars that killed millions at a time. They had invented weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. They had created military strategies that turned warfare into a science. But the worst part was that they did not seem sad about this. They told their war stories with pride and excitement. They respected each other based on how well they fought. They had turned violence into an art form. The ancient records showed the Zephyrian captain asking the human commander about peace on Earth. The human's answer had chilled the gentle explorer to his core. "Peace?" the human had said, laughing. "Peace is just the time between wars when we prepare for the next fight. We have never had real peace on Earth. We do not know how to live without conflict." The Zephyrian captain had realized that he was dealing with a species that was fundamentally different from his own people. Zephyrians had evolved on a peaceful world with plenty of resources. Competition was not necessary for survival, so they had developed cooperation and art instead of warfare. Humans had evolved differently. Their world was harsh and dangerous, forcing them to fight for everything they needed. This had made them incredibly tough and resourceful, but it had also made them love battle in ways that peaceful species could not understand. The ancient records showed more encounters between the two species. Each meeting taught the Zephyrians something new and terrible about human nature. Humans did not just fight to survive. They fought to test themselves, to prove their worth, to experience the thrill of combat. They had rules for war, codes of honor that made no sense to Zephyrians. They would fight to the death against each other one day, then share drinks and tell stories the next. They respected brave enemies more than cowardly friends. Most terrifying of all, humans seemed to get stronger and more dangerous the longer a war lasted. Other species would eventually get tired of fighting and seek peace. Humans would adapt and improve, finding new ways to win. Zelnoth read the final entry in the ancient records with growing dread. It was written by the expedition leader who had made the decision to flee to a different galaxy. We have learned that the universe contains two types of intelligent life, the ancient Zephyrian had written. There are species like us who create beauty and knowledge and peace, and there are species like the humans who create strength and will and victory. We cannot coexist with them, not because they are evil, but because they are everything we are not. The humans do not conquer because they want to rule. They conquer because conquest is their nature. They do not destroy because they hate. They destroy because destruction is their art. They are not monsters in the way we understand monsters. They are something far more dangerous. They are a species that has made war into their religion. I have decided to lead our people to the far galaxy, beyond the reach of human expansion. We will build our empire there, in the spaces between the stars where they will never find us. But if they ever do find us, if they ever appear in our new home, then we must remember this warning. Do not fight them. Do not challenge them. Do not give them any reason to show us what they have learned in their millions of years of warfare. Above all, do not believe that we can change them, or that they will change themselves. We met them when they were young, and already they were perfect weapons. By now they will have become something beyond our worst nightmares. Zelnoth turned off the ancient records and sat in the dark vault, her mind trying to process what she had learned. The humans had found them. After 3,000 years of peace and safety, the ultimate predators had tracked them down. She thought about Admiral Kethvar's report. One human ship had destroyed 6 Zephyrian vessels without taking any damage. The ancient warnings had not been exaggerated. If anything, they had been too gentle. Zelnoth activated her communication device and sent an emergency message to the Imperial Council. The Emperor himself needed to know what they were facing. Your Imperial Majesty, she said to the recording device, the ancient codex has been opened and its contents confirmed. A human warship has appeared in our space exactly as the old writings predicted. The patrol fleet that engaged it was completely destroyed. She paused, trying to find words for the terrible truth. Your Majesty, our ancestors fled from these beings when humans were still young and primitive. They have had 3,000 years to perfect their art of war. The ship that destroyed our fleet is probably just a scout or explorer. Their real warships will be far more dangerous. The ancient warnings are clear. We cannot fight them. We cannot negotiate with them as equals. We can only hope that they will accept our surrender and allow us to live as their subjects. Because the alternative is the complete destruction of everything we have built. Zelnoth ended the message and walked slowly back through the archive halls. Outside, the crystal cities of the Empire glowed peacefully in the starlight, their inhabitants going about their daily lives without knowing that their worst nightmare had come true. The humans had returned. And this time there was nowhere left to run. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood in her ready room, staring at the star charts that her crew had been updating for the past week. The UES Retribution had moved deeper into Zephyrian space, trying to find someone willing to talk instead of shoot. So far, they had not been successful. 3 more fleets had attacked them. Each time, Elena had tried to communicate first, explaining that humans were peaceful explorers who meant no harm. Each time, the aliens had responded with terror and weapons fire. Each time, the Retribution had destroyed them all. Elena did not want to keep killing these people, but they would not listen, and they would not stop attacking. Her duty was to protect her crew, and that meant fighting back when threatened. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Jackson said over the intercom, we are receiving another transmission from the aliens. This one is different. Elena walked onto the bridge. Different how? It is not a challenge or a threat. It sounds like a plea for mercy. Dr. Chen looked up from her translation station. Captain, I have been studying their language patterns from all the communications we have intercepted. The aliens are absolutely terrified of us. They keep referring to ancient prophecies and warnings from their ancestors. What kind of warnings? They call us things like the Devourers and World Breakers. and children of war. Their messages talk about humans as if we are some kind of mythical monster that their grandparents used to tell scary stories about. Elena frowned. But why? Humans have never been to this galaxy before. How could their ancestors know about us? I do not know, Captain. But whatever happened in the past, it scared them so badly that they have been dreading our return for thousands of years. Elena thought about Earth's history. Humans had always been a violent species, it was true. They had fought terrible wars and committed horrible acts, but they had also created beautiful art, made amazing discoveries, and learned to work together for common goals. The problem was that the retribution represented only one side of human nature. It was a warship, built during Earth's darkest period when nations had been destroying each other with nuclear weapons and biological warfare. Every system on the ship was designed to win fights, not make friends. Elena realized that to these aliens, the retribution probably looked like proof that humans had not changed at all. A ship covered in weapons crewed by soldiers, capable of destroying anything that challenged it. From their perspective, humans were exactly the monsters their ancestors had warned them about. Dr. Chen, can you translate a message for me? Elena asked. Of course, Captain. Send this to whoever is in charge of the alien empire. Tell them that Captain Elena Rodriguez of Earth requests permission to speak with their leaders. Tell them that I know their ancestors met humans long ago, and that I want to explain how we have changed since then. Dr. Chen worked on the translation and sent the message. For several hours there was no response. Then a weak signal came back. Captain, Dr. Chen said, I am getting a reply. It is from someone called High Archivist Zelnoth. She says she is willing to talk, but only if we promise not to attack their capital system. Tell her we have no intention of attacking anyone. We just want to understand why they are so afraid of us. Another hour passed before the next message arrived. This time it included detailed star charts showing a route to a neutral meeting point between the Retribution and the alien capital. Elena studied the charts. The meeting point was a small research station orbiting a dead planet. It was far enough from major population centers that the aliens would feel safe, but close enough to their territory that they could send reinforcements if needed. Set course for the meeting point, Elena ordered, and prepare a full cultural briefing on Earth history. If we are going to convince them that humans have changed, I need to show them proof. 3 days later, the Retribution arrived at the research station. It was a small facility made of the same living crystal that the aliens used for all their buildings. As Elena's shuttle approached, she could see that the station was beautiful but completely defenseless. Elena brought only a small diplomatic team with her. Dr. Chen to handle translation, Lieutenant Jackson for security, and Dr. Martinez, the ship's historian. They wore dress uniforms instead of combat gear and carried no visible weapons. High Archivist Zelnoth was waiting for them in the station's main conference room. She was tall and graceful, with blue-green skin that shifted to pale yellow when she saw Elena. Her large dark eyes showed intelligence and deep fear. Captain Rodriguez, Zelnoth said through the translation device, I admit I am surprised. You look much more normal than I expected. Elena smiled, trying to appear friendly and non-threatening. What did you expect? The ancient records describe humans as monsters who delight in violence and destruction. But you seem reasonable. Archivist Zelnoth, I think there has been a terrible misunderstanding. Humans have changed a great deal since your ancestors first met us. We would like to show you how. Dr. Martinez activated a holographic projector and began showing images from Earth's history. He started with the wars and conflicts that had defined humanity's early development, then showed how humans had gradually learned to work together. Yes, Zelnoth said, watching the images of human wars. This matches the ancient descriptions. Your species turned warfare into an art form. But watch what happens next, Dr. Martinez said. The hologram showed the formation of the United Earth government, the end of major wars, and humanity's first steps into space as explorers rather than conquerors. Zelnoth studied the images carefully. You claim that humans have become peaceful, but your ship destroyed 3 of our fleets without taking any damage. That does not seem peaceful to me. Elena leaned forward. Archivist, we only fought because your ships attacked us first. We tried to communicate peacefully every time. We never wanted to hurt anyone. But you were so effective at it, Zelnoth replied. Our most powerful warships could not even scratch your hull. Your weapons destroyed them in seconds. This is exactly what the ancient warnings predicted. Dr. Chen spoke up. Archivist, may I ask what exactly these ancient warnings said about humans? Zelnoth was quiet for a long moment. Then she activated her own holographic system and showed them images from the Zephyrian archives. Elena watched in fascination as the ancient records played out. She saw first contact between early humans and Zephyrians 3,000 years ago. The humans in the records looked primitive compared to modern standards, but they were clearly recognizable as her own species. As the story unfolded, Elena began to understand why the Zephyrians were so afraid. The ancient humans had not been evil or hostile, but they had been completely alien to the peaceful Zephyrians. Their casual attitude toward violence, their pride in military achievement, their enjoyment of competition and conflict, all of this had horrified the gentle aliens. Your ancestors were not wrong about humans, Elena said when the records finished. We were a violent species. We did love war and conflict. But that was 3,000 years ago. The ancient records say that humans get stronger through warfare, Zelnoth replied. If that is true, then 3,000 years of conflict would have made you incredibly dangerous. Elena realized that the archivist was right, but not in the way she thought. Humans had become stronger through conflict, but they had also become wiser. The same drive that had made them perfect warriors had also made them perfect protectors. Archivist, Elena said slowly, what if I told you that the reason humans became so good at war was so that we could eventually choose peace? What if our strength exists not to conquer others, but to defend those who cannot defend themselves? Zelnoth's skin color shifted to pale green, the color of confusion. I do not understand. Elena thought carefully about how to explain. Your people are builders and artists and scientists. You create beautiful things and seek knowledge, but because you are peaceful, you cannot protect yourselves from those who would harm you. This is true, Zelnoth admitted. Humans learned to be warriors so that peaceful people like you would not have to. We became monsters so that you could remain angels. For the first time since the meeting began, Zelnoth's skin color shifted to something that looked almost like hope. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the Zephyrian capital station, looking out at the most beautiful sight she had ever seen. Thousands of crystal ships floated in perfect formation around the massive space city, their hulls singing with harmonious music that could be heard even through the station's walls. It had been 3 months since her first meeting with High Archivist Zelnoth. 3 months of careful negotiations, cultural exchanges, and slowly building trust between two species that had every reason to fear each other. The breakthrough had come when Elena realized that the Zephyrians were not just afraid of human violence. They were afraid of becoming violent themselves. Their entire civilization was built on the idea that peaceful beings were morally superior to warriors. Meeting humans forced them to question everything they believed about the nature of good and evil. Elena had spent weeks explaining that humans did not fight because they enjoyed causing pain. They fought because sometimes violence was the only way to protect innocence. The Zephyrians had slowly begun to understand that strength and goodness were not opposite things. Captain Rodriguez, a familiar voice said behind her. Elena turned to see High Archivist Zelnoth approaching, her skin showing the deep blue color of contentment. Archivist Zelnoth, Elena replied, smiling. How did the council meeting go? Better than I hoped. The Emperor has agreed to your proposal. The Zephyrian Empire will accept a human protection fleet, under the conditions we discussed. Elena felt relief wash over her. The negotiations had been delicate and difficult. The Zephyrians needed protection from other hostile species in the galaxy, but they could not bring themselves to ask for help from the beings their ancestors had called monsters. The solution had been a partnership, rather than a conquest. The UES Retribution would be joined by other Earth ships, creating a small fleet that would patrol the borders of Zephyrian space. In return, the Zephyrians would share their advanced crystal technology and peaceful arts with humanity. There is one more thing, Zelnoth said. The Emperor wants to meet you personally before the treaty is signed. Elena followed the archivist through the crystal corridors of the capital station. The walls were transparent, offering views of the incredible city that floated in space around them. Gardens hung in zero gravity, their plants growing in impossible spirals and curves. Artists worked on sculptures that changed color and shape as they watched. Everything about Zephyrian culture emphasized beauty, harmony, and peaceful cooperation. Elena could see why the ancient humans had seemed like demons to these people. But she could also see why these people needed protection. They had created something wonderful, but they had no way to defend it. The Emperor's throne room was a vast sphere of crystal that showed the stars in all directions. Emperor Kethazar himself was ancient even by Zephyrian standards, his skin a deep silver color that spoke of great wisdom and age. "Captain Rodriguez," the Emperor said, his voice soft but carrying clearly through the chamber. "I have read the reports of your conversations with Archivist Zelnoth. I must admit you are not what our ancestors described." "Your Majesty," Elena replied, bowing slightly. "I hope that humanity can prove that we have learned from our violent past." "Perhaps," the Emperor said, "but I must ask you something that has been troubling me. Your ship is incredibly powerful. Your crew is trained for war. If you decided to conquer our empire instead of protecting it, we could not stop you. Why should we trust you?" Elena had been expecting this question. It was the heart of the Zephyrians' fear. They were about to invite the wolves into their home and hope that the wolves had become sheepdogs. "Your Majesty," Elena said carefully, "you should not trust us because we are weak. You should trust us because we are strong enough to choose restraint." The Emperor's skin shifted to pale green, the color of confusion. "I do not understand." Elena gestured toward the crystal walls that showed the beautiful Zephyrian cities. "Your people have built something incredible here. Art, music, science, philosophy, all the things that make life worth living. But you built it in a dangerous galaxy full of species that would destroy it for profit or pleasure." "This is true," the Emperor admitted. "Humans have the power to take everything you have built. But we also have the wisdom to know that destroying beauty makes the universe a darker place. We became warriors so that peaceful people like you would not have to." Elena paused, choosing her words carefully. "Your Majesty, the greatest victory a warrior can achieve is to make warfare unnecessary. The strongest thing we can do is to use our strength to protect those who cannot protect themselves." The Emperor was quiet for a long time, his skin cycling through several colors as he thought. Finally he spoke. "Captain Rodriguez, your words sound noble. But how do I know that future humans will feel the same way? How do I know that someday one of your people will not decide that conquest is easier than protection?" Elena smiled. "Because, Your Majesty, if any human ever threatens your people, they will have to deal with the rest of humanity first. We do not tolerate bullies even when the bullies are our own species. You would fight other humans to protect us, without hesitation. That is what guardians do." The Emperor's skin turned to a warm gold color that Elena had learned meant deep approval. "Very well, Captain Rodriguez. The Zephyrian Empire accepts Earth's offer of protection. But I have one request." "What is that, Your Majesty?" "I want your ship to remain here as the flagship of the protection fleet. And I want you to serve as the first human ambassador to our empire. We have much to learn from each other." Elena felt a wave of emotion. She had come to this galaxy as an explorer, hoping to find new worlds for humanity. Instead, she had found something much more valuable. A people worth protecting and a purpose worth fighting for. "I would be honored, Your Majesty." 6 months later, Elena stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching as 3 more Earthships emerged from hyperspace. The protection fleet was growing, but it was not the conquest force that the ancient Zephyrians had feared. These new ships carried scientists and artists as well as soldiers. They brought teachers who could learn from Zephyrian wisdom and engineers who could help improve their defenses. The partnership was becoming real. "Captain," Dr. Chen called from her station, "we are receiving a message from Earth Command. They want a full report on our situation." Elena smiled. "Tell them that humanity has found something precious in this galaxy. Tell them we have found a people who remember that beauty is worth preserving and that peace is worth protecting. And tell them that we will never let anyone destroy what the Zephyrians have built." She looked out at the crystal cities glowing in the starlight, their songs mixing with the deep hum of the Retribution's engines. The Empire's greatest fear had come true. The humans had found them. But sometimes, Elena thought, the monsters you fear turn out to be the guardians you need. And sometimes the strongest thing a warrior can do is choose to be gentle. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of species that would destroy beauty for power. But it was also a place where 2 very different peoples could find common ground, where warriors could become protectors, and where ancient fears could become lasting friendships. Elena had come to this galaxy as a representative of humanity's military might. She would stay as proof of humanity's capacity for wisdom, compassion, and sacrifice. The terror had come true. But in the end, that terror had become hope.